My goal with the SolrAI module was to be able to seamlessly integrate AI-assisted query chat into the Drupal framework, period. This is the overall content flow architecture of the SolrAI module. You should see above a link to the video where this process is explained in detail. I designed the SolrAI module based on this architecture, but instead of using Python and LangChain, I used PHP and Drupal. I broke this architecture down into two major components. The first component is content ingestion, where I take the content that is created or uploaded into Drupal by the usual means and ingest it into the vector store. By the usual means, I mean nodes, paragraphs, comments are created the way you normally create them, and files are uploaded and attached in the usual manner. Nothing extra you have to do. The system is designed to sync your Drupal content with the vector store automatically. If you want an example of just how simple the process of embedding content is, I provided a link above. The second component is chat completion query. I have a whole video where I discuss in detail my chat completion process, the centerpiece being the creation of standalone questions in order to maintain your conversation with a large language model. You should see the link to that video above. Bottom line is that users are able to conversationally chat with this system in the same way you can with OpenAI's ChatGPT. The difference here is that your conversations are restricted to the data that is embedded from your Drupal site. The SolrAI system is highly configurable. It currently has some 65 configuration options, not including the field selection settings, which are limited only by the number of content fields you wish to embed. While this is a huge advantage for my use case, where I am looking to build a variety of niche knowledge-based applications, it is also a huge disadvantage from the standpoint of making this a very, quote, user-friendly, unquote, module, which is one of the major reasons why at this point I have no plans to release it publicly. So what about our end users? What do they see? I did a whole video on the SolrAI process from the end user's perspective. The link is above. But here is a little quickie demonstration I put together for you as well. Okay, just a brief little overview of SolrAI query. I used this opportunity to add something to the previous tutorial that I forgot. Number one is that whenever you're in a conversation and you decide you want to switch to a different subject, you should always use either exit or new. You type in, for example, new, which would mean new conversation, and that will, as you see, clear out the existing conversation, and now you can begin anew. This you should do for sure, because if you're in the middle of talking about like Star Trek and you decide you want to talk about Olivia's birthday party, the system may get a bit confused. It is designed to keep track of your questions and maintain the context of your conversation. The other thing I forgot to mention was that we now allow for filtering your questions by groups. These being, if you have the group module installed, then you can select the groups that you would like your users to be able to narrow their searches on, and also tags. So hopefully, you'll find this useful. So let's jump in here. Let's see, what do the documents have to say about Star Trek? So again, I am searching for whatever information that I have stored in my database regarding Star Trek. Now, of course, before I did this demo, I already knew what was in there. And you can see these, actually the 3 articles. You see this title repeated, right? This is basically one article which is chunked. And what it does is it comes back with a bunch of information about what it found, about what the documents had to say about Star Trek, which is, what we asked it. So again, this is a example of semantic search versus keyword search, where a keyword search just would have brought back, the documents and then the excerpts where the particular keywords were found. So again, the other advantage of conversational chat is that it will maintain the context. So as you see, it talked about Harlan Ellison, who sued Paramount for alleged failure to pay him. He also sued the Writers Guild of America, who didn't represent him. He sued over an episode of Star Trek he wrote called The City on the Edge of Forever. And there also happened to be another article in here which talked about the Netflix deal with CBS, which included Star Trek. Now, pay attention here. You see another document came up, a DGA, Directors Guild of America Combined Agreement PDF, which is also in the database. And the reason it comes up is because I just had it search. Well, first of all, I have a limit of 5, and the way the vector store that I'm using, which is Weaviate, works is it comes back with if you give it a limit of 5, then it comes back with the 5 highest completions. Now, Star Trek isn't mentioned at all in the DGA agreement, but television is, science fiction is, and that's probably why it came back in this group. So, anyway, now what I can do is I can maintain this conversation. So I can say, okay, who won the lawsuit? Okay, good question. And it should tell me, it should understand that we are talking about this conversation here, in which we mention Harlan Ellison's lawsuit against CBS and the Writers Guild. So, and another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click articles, because now what I want to do is I want to make sure that I restrict these just to articles and not like the DGA agreement or whatever other document that it decides to include with Star Trek. Now, you see that it came up again, but that's because I'm sorry. These came up here, but that's because it's still it hasn't flushed the memory. So if I ask the question again, who won the lawsuit? It should now focus on just the articles. And as you see now, it no longer includes the other extraneous information, but it focuses on those articles which mention Star Trek. And you'll see, again, because I had a limit of 5, the next closest article would have been this one, the Netflix CBS deal. So, let's see. Now let's ask... I know we were talking about the city on the edge of forever, right? So that was what the lawsuit was over. So let's see if it remembers that when I ask it, when did that air? Okay, and Okay, and um, based on the information provided in the context document, Sitting on the Edge of Forever episode of the original Star Trek series, first aired in April 1967. It was a good year. And let's see, let's ask another contextual question. How much was the deal worth? Now, again, this was mentioned early on in the conversation about the deal between Netflix and CBS, in which Star Trek was included. So let's see if it remembers that. Well, look at our little standalone question. And based on the information provided in the context documents, the deal between Netflix and CBS for non-exclusive rights to stream shows like Star Trek was worth $200 million. All right, so again, that's just a brief overview of what the end user experience on this thing is going to be. I have a whole tutorial where I talked about all these options, but the reason that I allow these on SolrAI is because I feel that it gives end users more tools to work with. Those of us who've used this AI before know that it can be quite frustrating. Like using ChatGPT when, you have to try to figure out the correct prompt to ask. And sometimes it's not necessarily the prompt, so we can turn concepts on or off. We can turn the standalone question on or off. Moderation, we're looking at the admin console right now. Moderation is not an option for end users because we don't want end users saying whatever they feel like, nor is the option to select another model, nor is the option to select the limit. But certainly Weaviate has what's called a hybrid query, which allows you to moderate between how much you want your query to come back as a keyword search and how much you want it to come back as a semantic search. That's really great sometimes, again, when you're trying to find some information that's pretty difficult to find. And I already mentioned about the groups and the tags, so we have these filters. And down here, you may have noticed this, we have what's called a keyword search. And what this is, that's the basic Search API Solr keyword search, right? So I could just come in here and then say Star Trek, right? And it will find every occurrence in the database of Star Trek. So I like having this option, having the ability to still do keyword search, just straight keyword search, in addition to semantic search. I think that makes Drupal an even more powerful knowledge-based tool. So anyway, like I say, that's just a quick little overview. I know it went long, but hey, I'm long-winded. The SolrAI module also has a logging system that not only keeps track of your total token usage, but also allows you to browse all activities, which include queries and embedding, inserts, updates, and deletes. It also keeps track of the total tokens used in each transaction, as well as the date, user account, IP address, and completion times. Speaking of tokens, you can set site-wide or per-user token limits for daily and monthly usage.